Hello everybody, thanks for joining me again. This is Brett Tadlock, TN Artist. So this is Golden Fog on the Rocks. Is basically what I called it. So it's a little bit different type painting. It's more pastel colored than what I normally do. And this is just a quick walkthrough of it. So what I did was I started with that neutral bluish background, then started smearing some pastel type colors over it, and then sampled colors from it to start making these wave crests in the background. And so what I wanted this to be was very atmospheric, very much the sun cutting through like a really thick fog, and so you kind of get that rainbow colors and that kind of stuff, so it kind of gives you those purples and pinks and all that other as it cuts through. And so you've got the waves in the background kind of there and hinted at, and then you're going to have a breaker wave coming against these rocks. And so these rocks I painted in, again starting with just some simple shapes to really kind of define them and have them be in the forefront, and then started adding in a little bit of the background color on top of it, so some of those orangish browns kind of laid on top of it and stuff, and then started scrubbing in some of the other colors in there. So to do the waves in the front, I started scrubbing in some of that bluish gray kind of color to really separate it out from the waves in the background. And then in the background I wanted to hint that there's texture to those. I don't want a lot of texture to show through, because again, this is supposed to be a very foggy type morning where, you know, like one of those things where you can see maybe 5 feet in front of yourself. So having the waves crash against it, and then showing some of the light breaking through and kind of coming through. And really, when you're doing this part, a lot of it is very similar to how you would do clouds. So you kind of get that rough shape of what you want, and then from there you kind of blend it down and follow the shape of the wave that's breaking up and coming through, and grabbing some of the lighter colors from the background to really make it seem like it's being lit from the back and coming through it. And so then start paying attention to the shadows for where everything is. I find that it's really good to work loose for something like this, so kind of keep zoomed out and really play around with the colors and the lighting of it more than anything else. And that's really kind of what, like, again, that's what I was going for with this, was just kind of a soft morning waves kind of coming through and seeing how that looked with it, and then giving it that lighting to add a little bit of drama to it and stuff. So normally I've got much more intense paintings that I've done, but this one I wanted it to be a softer thing. And so you really just kind of let everything fade off in the edges a little bit, paying attention to the direction of the lighting coming through straight at you, so that keeps your center of focus for it. Lighting the rocks in the front, and make sure you've got some reflective light coming through on that, and then some of the light spilling over for the ocean foam that's kind of, you know, flowing past in between the rocks. So really just kind of playing on this. I have more of these that are on my Patreon page, so if you want to come join that, it's only $3 a month. Well, one thing right there I wanted to say was that, so you saw how I kind of threw in some of these shapes, and I do that with the fog layer that I put on it, and so I wanted to really break that up and kind of give those organic shapes that are coming through. And so the best way to do that is just kind of put a fog and erase some of it, or just use another brush to kind of cut some of it back. So this was done in Procreate. Could easily do this in ArtRage or Rebel, any of those that do it. There's not so much as far as the brushes that go with it, but if you do want some brushes that are easier, I have some on my Gumroad page that are for ArtRage and work really well for it, and so I highly recommend trying this out on there as well. And so I kind of started pulling everything together, and then wanted to start adding in some of the highlights in the background, and again, just that subtle layer of textures and color, and really building it up and keeping that soft look to it, but really kind of, again, defining where the waves are crashing over the rocks and kind of seeing that. I thought about putting a boat in the background, but then it was a little too distracting in my opinion. So, but I did want to kind of have some more rocks in the front, so that's why I've got this here that I just kind of kept some shadowed rock to kind of vignette and draw you again towards the center, so that the rocks in the middle kind of draw you in and circle you back up towards the sun. The splash of the waves lets you keep kind of there in the front as well, and then everything is kind of pointing you back towards that sunlight in the middle, so that's your center of focus. So that's what I'm doing there. If you have questions about this, like I said, this is a really quick overview of what I did, leave them below. I answer them as fast as I can and go through them all to really get you that final look for it all. So I appreciate you, and thanks so much. Make sure to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications.